Hello, dear friends. Hello, dear ladies and gentlemen. This little video is probably a pure waste of time. Why so? Well, because many of you have their own picture of the world, their own understanding of the world, and who am I to try to question it or even to destroy it? I'm not the one who would like to destroy the picture of the world with which you are comfortable. However, in my capacity of a former teacher and even a professor of political science and history, I have no choice but at least to try to say a few words that might wake some of you up. Again, I'm apologetic for questioning your picture of the world if it's different from what I'm going to say. Now, let's start with the beginning. Most of you know about the Globalist project that is aimed at the creation of the New World Order. What is the New World Order? Well, I believe most of you know that the New World Order means the creation of a world concentration camp or a world jail, in which many of us will have to do something that we don't want to do. By the way, another mistake. Many of us, I said. Maybe not too many of us. Some of us who love and appreciate freedom will have to do things that we do not want to do. Alas, 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 there are too many of us who do not want to be free and who actually do not mind accepting the role of either as slaves or domestic animals. And if that project ends up with a success, the majority of people will probably be so stupid and so doomed that they won't even understand that they are slaves or domestic animals. So from that point of view, there will be absolute and total harmony. The hope, though, is that that project will never be a full success. Here, let me quote one of the characters of a historical novel of Polish writer Henryk Sienkiewicz, that was Polish knight whose name was Zawisza the Black. Oh, I'm apologetic for quoting East European authors, but unfortunately, although I know West European history, I don't have such a character there to offer you. So the knight Zawisza the Black, when he looked at the Crusader castle, he said, "Everything that has been created by human hands will once be destroyed by human hands." The same will definitely happen with the New World Order, even if this project will be a success for a limited period of time. But I'm not going to talk too much about the New World Order. Those of you who know about that globalist project don't need to know any details. You know that anyway. Those who do not know, who do not want to know, I don't want to discuss that with those people because that would be a pure waste of time. And I don't have too much time. I'm going to talk about the mess in the heads of some people who have been blinded by the lies and indoctrinated by not honest media. Are there any honest media? Are there any objective media? I'm not so sure. But anyway, those people blinded by the lies have certain illusions about which I would like to talk in a few moments. You all know that during the last few months there was a counter-globalist movement in a number of countries, in the United States of America, in Europe, and here in Canada. Here in Canada, I mean the so-called Convoy of Freedom, or the Freedom Convoy. Without saying whether it's good or bad, I cannot express my own opinion in the absence of the freedom of speech. I should just make a statement that the anti-globalist movement was and still is taking place in Canada and in the rest of the world. And all of a sudden, at the crucial moment of that movement, a war broke out in Ukraine. Or to be more specific, Putin's Russia invaded Ukraine. an independent nation, already partially occupied by Russia, I mean the Crimea and some other parts of Lugansk and Donetsk provinces, but the escalation occurred on the 24th of February. And what was the result? The attention of the majority of people was drawn away from anti-globalist movement to the war in Ukraine. By the way, what is really interesting, the war in Ukraine makes absolutely no sense for Russia and even for the Russian leadership. Nevertheless, it occurred. However, what is really interesting is that many Westerners, including Canadians and Americans, those who were fighting against globalism, all of a sudden started siding with Mr. Putin and his sub-empire, the so-called Russian Federation, which is not a federation and not even Russian, in fact. Why so? Because those naive people believe that Putin's regime is an alternative to the New World Order. By the way, those people were inspired by a speech of one probably undereducated Ukrainian lady, young Ukrainian lady, who is a member of the Ukrainian parliament, who pronounced the following phrase: "We Ukrainians are fighting for the New World Order, for freedom and democracy." That young lady probably didn't know what the New World Order even means. She meant probably that Ukraine is fighting for freedom and democracy. But someone put that phrase into her mouth and she vocalized it. And again, those who heard that speech, if I may put it so, became absolutely convinced that Vladimir Putin is an alternative to the New World Order. By the way, this idea is not so new. It's actually an old idea. In the early 90s, when I still lived in Germany, in Russia, in Gorbachev's Russia, there was a coup orchestrated by Orthodox communists and neo-Nazis, headed by General Yazov, Gennady Yanayev, Pugo, and a couple of other Orthodox communist characters. Many Germans and many French people whom I knew and who shared right-wing views used to tell me, "You do not understand. Those are not the communists. It was a Russian uprising against," they didn't use the word globalists those days. They said against the Freemasons and the Freemason regime. What a nonsense. It was not a people's uprising, and of course, this was an attempt of communist revenge. But those people, those right-wingers, strongly believed in it. Actually, this idea goes even further back to the middle of the Second World War. Some of you probably saw this poster. Yes, this Russian soldier is your friend. He is also fighting for freedom. Yes, Russian soldiers were fighting against Hitler. Were they fighting for freedom? No, no, and no. They were not fighting for freedom. More than that, those who really know the history of the Second World War know that Stalinist Russia, at the first stage of the World War, was allied with the Third Reich, with Adolf Hitler. Being part of that alliance, they took over half of Poland, of the Baltic states, of a significant part of Finland and Romania. And later there was a strife between the two dictators, and Russia became somehow allied with the West, with the Western allies. Those of you who are from Eastern Europe or from East Central Europe probably know what freedom was brought by the Russian soldiers to such countries as Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and some other countries. In those countries occupied by the Red Army, people tried to resist. There was a guerrilla warfare, but unfortunately those people failed. Their countries were too worn out by the war, and people wanted peace at any price. And the anti-Soviet resistance failed. But what they got was nothing even close to freedom. The same refers to Putin's Russia and to what it's bringing to Ukraine. To those who believe that Putin is an alternative to the New World Order, I would recommend to listen to the words of Mr. Klaus Schwab. Do you know who Klaus Schwab is? If you do not, then may Google help you. And here are the words of Klaus Schwab.
Even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Isn't it enough for you to understand that Mr. Putin and his regime is part and parcel of the globalist agenda and of the New World Order? And today his armies are invading Ukraine. You never know whom they're going to invade tomorrow. Not to mention that if he uses biological and nuclear weapon, it will influence you as well. Between you and me, I'm pretty sure he will never use it because he doesn't have it anymore. But nobody knows that. Well, some people probably do, but the majority still believe that Putin has it. But that's another topic. By the way, if you would like to know who could be an alternative to the New World Order, I can tell you. It's China, Communist China. But it's a very bad alternative. You need to know a little bit more about the Chinese culture to understand what awaits you if we live or will have to live in the world dominated by Chinese communists. I'm not going to go deep into this topic right now. We can talk about that a little bit later. But believe it or not, the world dominated by the Chinese communists will be a very bad place for those who are not ethnic Chinese. What else should I say? Well, I probably have said enough. What I recommend is do not be blinded by the lies. If you are against the globalist agenda and against the New World Order, it doesn't mean that you should support Vladimir Putin and his military crimes against Ukraine. Do not be blinded, and God bless you and yours. Bye-bye.